there really isn't a substitute for the natural tear film. And so when patients come in and they've been told to use artificial tears every couple hours, you're really not doing the same thing as having a normal tear film. We know that tear film is a very complex mixture of lipids, proteins, mucins, and electrolytes. There's growth factors. There's over 1,500 proteins. There's 5 different lipid classes and over 20 mucins. And these different factors have healing properties for the epithelium. They're anti-inflammatory as well as being antimicrobial. So simply replacing the tear film with artificial tears doesn't really address the needs these patients have. So let's kind of talk about what a decreased tear film does. And this is, we'll go through a couple studies. Certainly clinically, you see these findings, but it's nice to document them with some animal studies. So this was a study that was published in Investigative Ophthalmology in 2006, in which they used a mouse model and injected botulinum toxin into the lacrimal gland. They had 3 different concentrations of Botox as well as a saline control. And what they saw was a dramatic drop in the tear film, in tear production over the first 6 weeks with a slow resolution over the 8 weeks. But then looking on the effect of the cornea, you can see in the control group, the saline group, there was really no change in staining whatsoever. But like we see clinically, a dramatic increase in corneal staining from those animals with decreased tear production. And then another study in 2009 did a similar thing, but then looked at the inflammatory markers. So once again, it was a mouse model using Botox injected into the lacrimal gland. They had a control group of no treatment and another control group of saline. And you can see the yellow line here, dramatic drop in tear production. They reproduced those findings we talked about in the previous study with a dramatic increase in corneal staining, but they also looked at inflammatory markers. And we know dry eye patients have inflammation, and that's why we have tests to look for inflammation like MMP9. That's why we see signs of inflammation. And this study documented that those animals with the decreased tear production had increased inflammatory markers of TNF alpha and IL-1, 2 very important markers of inflammation in the tear film. So 2 studies kind of documenting what we see clinically.